who are you fundamentally?
We're letting that drive our action, or as I say, our inaction.
And the courage to do that, you have it. We all do.
It helps me feel like I have a sense of accomplishment in my life.
What's the worst that could happen if you just let it be?
Yes. Welcome back to I Can Fit That In, the podcast where ambition meets alignment. Today's guest, Tessa Arnold, is someone whose work deeply aligns with mine, and I am thrilled to have her here and share her with all of you. Tessa is an Ayurveda health coach, entrepreneur, and powerful guide for ambitious men and women who are ready to stop sacrificing themselves for everyone else and start living with more peace, purpose, and personal power. She's the co-founder of Snapback Energy, a wellness brand designed to help people recharge their minds and bodies. And she's also the creator of Balance of You, a transformative coaching program that helps individuals reconnect with who they really are and take confident, intentional action in their lives. Through Tessa's signature framework, Step Into the Gap, she empowers her clients and her audiences to pause, reflect, and realign. Whether she's leading a workshop, recording her own podcast, or coaching one-to-one, her mission is clear: to help people shift from overwhelm to clarity, from disconnection to alignment. We are diving into identity, healing, balance, and what it takes to truly prioritize yourself in a world that constantly asks you to give more. So let's get into it. Tessa, I am so excited to have you join me today.
Thank you, Erin. I'm so excited to be here. Just listening to that was beautiful. It's always great to hear kind of, what you've been working on and putting out into the world. So thank you so much. I very much appreciate it. I'm so happy.
I know. Sometimes when you hear your bio back, you're like, oh yeah, that is me.
You're like, I did do that and I am doing that. And that's really exciting. And that's really aligned with, and it's a sense of immediately when I hear it, it's aligned with what I'm calling into my life and the journey that I've been on and sort of the journey that we're all on. And whomever's listening, you're like, oh gosh, listening to that rattle off, trust me, you are doing it too. And a lot of those ways, it's just a fancy way of saying that I know you're being of service to other people. You influence and inspire people more than you know. So I'm just happy to those that are listening.
That's so true. Yeah. And I love that you called that out. Yeah. It shows how aligned you are too, because you can see in others, even if you can't actually physically be with them, you know that everyone has their own ways of inspiring people just through their own stories, right? I love that. So I thought, you and I have so much in common, and people could tell that we have something in common just by your bio and knowing me and the work that I do. But our backgrounds are quite similar.
Yes.
And I thought, why not start there? I mean, we both have a former career in banking and, big banking, big investment firms. And so I thought, gosh, this show is all about exploring how high performing, purpose driven people live with intention, right? And how you have maybe pivotal moments or, these turning points in your career, in your life, that shift you in some way or catalyze some sort of change.
Right.
And sometimes that shows up in our careers. Sometimes it shows up in our relationships. Sometimes it shows up in we move, across the country or to a different country.
Right.
It's different for everyone. So share with us your story of your former career and making a shift into a different life.
Absolutely. So happy to. And I like to think that I got a break, to get into banking at an early age when I was in my 20s. And it was, a best friend who's said somebody's interviewing for this and it's a foot in the door and then you take it from there, right? I think we've all had that opportunity somewhere in our lives, probably when we're younger, even when we're not, we're later on in our career, that somebody has, just given our name to somebody, or we show up for the interview, we do the thing. And it propelled me into the realm of banking and the financial industry. And I fell in love with it immediately. I fell in love with the opportunity, the grit, the ambition, and just the interaction and how we were building and developing and at the core of what this country is built on, right? Some of the key founders. And to work for the two companies that I was working with, I was right there at the table, young and ready to go take on the world. And I have to say my experience With my first company, with working with JP Morgan was amazing. I loved working with them. I probably would have stayed. And even with my second company too, I don't have a negative thing to say. It taught me fundamentally skills and resources that I use in my life today. And leaving initially after a 10-year career was one of the hardest things that I had to do. It was, and I struggled with it immensely. And I share this, and I have in anything that I put out there, that it was a decision that I didn't take lightly, and it was terrifying to say the least. And it wasn't that. I like to take a step back because at that point in time, this is different from I'm going to go pursue a dream. This was I have to take care of myself and my family. So it was not, it was something that I had to do and take a look back and say, I can't operate at these levels. But I'll be darned if I'm going to disappoint and not give 110% and fire off at this capacity that I have been my entire career. It's what people have come to expect of me. It's Tessa. You go to Tessa when you need to get something done. She's going to handle it. She's going to answer the phone. She's going to do this. She did a blah, blah, blah. I was managing a team. She's always on. She's available.
Right.
And yes, there was most definitely burnout, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy being that person, that subject matter expert, that person that you go to, the one with the ideas, the one that they call in across the room to come sit at this table that you weren't even involved in the conversation, but they know that you're going to throw out something that's going to make them think about a whole different concept. I love that. I do miss that in a lot of ways, but I put it into other things that I worked on. I had to take care of my family. I had to take a step back and step into the role of caregiver and strength for what we were going through personally, in my personal relationship, to the point where we ended up, losing somebody very dear to us, my children's father, and going through the motions of that, and just taking care of my children who were very young. And a piece of me, felt that it was taken away, because where's that identity if I'm not this high performing, ambitious woman that I can leave the chaos at home and go do this? And then it shifted quite a bit, right? Because I realized when I did that, how I wasn't necessarily understanding how to properly take care of myself. And how the term of being everything for everybody and do more, and you can give a little bit more and squeeze out a little bit more, was just really causing me to lose myself in such a way that I've been disconnected. I shared with a client I was working with earlier this week, and I think it's worth sharing now. I believe in the work that I do and what I've learned up until this point, that we are born as ourselves. We are ourselves. We're full expressions of ourselves because we don't know how else to be. We are joyful. We are jubilant. We are an expression of us as a baby, as a small child. And then we get told no. And then we get told can't. Go do this, go do that. And it's normal. No negative here, no judgment. That's not what this conversation is about. It's the experience of life. And that continues up until you get through your 20s. Because let's be honest, in your 20s, who knows what anybody's doing at that point. But we don't seem to care either. We're like, whatever, finding myself, I do this, I do that. It's such a beautiful thing. 20-year-olds, I think you're amazing. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing exactly what you should be doing.
Yeah.
We get into our 30s, we get into our mid 30s, we start to get into our 40s. We have that full, wait a second here, identity crisis, if you will, at some degree. We have that, I've lost myself, I can't see myself. Well, yes, that was part of the process. You did. You were completely imbalanced, all over the place, growing. It's the expression experience of life. And then we have a decision to make. Am I going to be courageous and try and find myself again and give myself the grace to know that's all served a purpose? Now, what does the whole rest of my life look like? And hopefully for everybody listening, it looks really connected to who you truly are. And that's not quitting the job, and that's not doing the thing and this and that. It's just doing the work on you and seeing where that places you.
Yes, so true. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing so much of your background. And I know, going through a personal loss. I mean, I had a story like you of adversity and caretaking, but it was my father when I was a very young girl, and he was terminally ill since I was 5 and passed away 13 years later. So I also know what it's like to have to do that. I had to grow up so fast
Yeah.
because there was just everyone had to chip in.
Right.
There was no room for anyone else's feelings or emotions or anything. It was like
Right.
all hands on deck to try to help him have some semblance of a quality of life, which he really did not. Um,
Absolutely.
but that said, too, I think there's so much beauty in those stories of adversity and hardship because it's also a bit of like an unfolding,
It is.
if you will,
Yeah.
right? It starts to peel back the layers of complexity
Right.
that we've built up over time as those high performers and just I'm
Right.
gonna get shit done. Like I am
Right.
smart, I am powerful, I'm
Yes.
respected, like I've earned my keep,
Yes.
and that's not wrong.
It's not wrong.
We do what society kind of tells us to do,
Mm-hmm.
and we get in line and we go through those motions and it does feel pretty good, right?
Right.
Because we're achieving and we're accomplishing. And
Mm-hmm.
most of the time we're being rewarded for that. Sometimes it takes a little bit of, momentum to catch up with it.
Right.
But we're being rewarded for that. And so to then have to change things, which some people choose by
Mm-hmm.
design, others, there's some sort of moment like you described that kind of pushes them into
Right.
change. One of the things that I talk to clients about is that change happens by design or by disaster.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to finding yourself again, when you get to that moment around your mid 30s to mid 40s and you're going, is this my life?
Right.
Or is this just the life that I've accepted?
Right.
Is this truly my identity? Or is this just the identity that I've accepted?
Right.
Right. And I'm sure you see this in so many clients that you work with. People look to the outside world for what it is that can help them fill that gap
Mm-hmm.
or somehow fulfill something in them that they just think is missing.
Right.
Right. Like there's just something that's not clicking.
Right.
And I know for me, it was like that as well. I was like, geez, I have everything on paper. So why do I feel like something is missing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is this void within me? And we think at times it's changing jobs. It's like
Right.
the first thing we look at.
Exactly.
I just need the new job. I need to work for that company. I need to make
Right.
that money or I need that title.
Right.
And then the grass is just as brown 6 months later after you
Yep.
make the change, right?
Absolutely.
Because you're not doing the inner work,
Mm-hmm.
right? So talk to us a little bit about that inner work that not only you've done on yourself,
Right.
but that you see is so powerful in doing with others and how it starts to change the way that people show up in their jobs, right? Not having to overhaul their lives, but how it helps change who they are and how they're approaching their lives.
Absolutely. And you said so many beautiful things there, Erin, like along the story and the journey there. And it is, going back to that sort of, as we call it, identity crisis in that moment of whose life am I living here? That's okay, guys. We're all having it and we all have it. It's a rite of passage, right? And the trials and the tribulations and the hardships and the journey, such is life. You're not a victim of it. And that's to say lightly and with so much respect and grace and compassion for what people have been through in their lives and some of the very difficult traumatic experience. I am not downplaying that. What I'm saying to you is that there's so much more to be lived and expressed as well. And we can do that together, right? We're all just walking each other home. That's the whole experience. Another thing is to fit and to look outside of ourselves. So object referral outside to seek fulfillment and contentment will always leave you empty and seeking. It will,
That
guys.
is
It's
so true.
always going to be. It is quick. It's usually faster. It's something you can buy. It's something you can do. Somebody you can talk to when you shouldn't. It's the dopamine fixes that they are there and readily available. I promise you that the seeking that you do outside of yourself will always and forever eventually leave you empty. It will perpetually put you in a state of seeking and unfulfillment. The self-referral, the referral upon yourself seeking within is always going to provide you with the contentment, the peace, and the fulfillment. It is the most difficult work you will do. I'm not trying to sugarcoat this or make it easy, but it is the work that you will always respect and appreciate doing for the rest of your life. And the courage to do that, you have it. We all do. Another reason that I say this is because that object referral outside of yourself, seeing what somebody else is doing, what they're buying, what they're wearing, eating, dating, this life is a personalized prescription. It is not a one size fits all. I know that we have trends and reels and TikTok, whatever. I don't know. That's all. It's a lot of noise and it's all over it. It's you get so confused. And I should be, would be, could be. It's much easier to work with what you have than go out and recreate. And I can tell you that as an entrepreneur right now, here and now, the grass is not greener. I'd be lying if I said I don't miss the structure and knowing what I was going to do.
Yeah.
The
entrepreneurship is not easy. I know
not
it
easy.
looks so glamorous. I mean,
not.
the number of people that reach out, I'm sure you get this all the time. They want to start a coaching business. They want to start their own businesses. And it's like, they see you doing it and they're going, God, that looks great. How can I do what you're doing?
And but you don't lead by goals, right? So goals are never going to get you to the goal. And once you get to the goal, it's never going to fulfill you. It's the intention with which you do something, because that's 100%. The enjoyment in the journey. But again, to do any of these things that Erin and I are talking about, guys, you have to tap into who are you fundamentally. When you ask your question, just anybody who's on the phone, who am I? When you get off this call, I want you to go write down on a sheet of paper, who am I? ? And whatever comes out and whatever is written, great. There's no right or wrong answer. But you're not the job and you're not the label and you are a wife or a mother or a caregiver or a sister or a person or a human or a friend out in the world. But there's so much more substance to you. At your core, your capital S self. And that's the work that we do, is really tap into what are your core values, right? And what works for me and what I'm aligned with is not the same as you, right? We have our individuality that we have to speak to. And then you start to pour that over your life, right? The people that you love, the work that you do in the office with your colleagues, with your senior leaders, and you become a catalyst to embrace this. I was speaking with somebody earlier and I said, change is such a beautiful thing. I have always been one that seeks and embraces, because I grew up in a very small beach town where I had cornfields all around, had pictures of the city all over my wall, and it was energy and magnetism and change and shift and pivots. And I lived by the ocean and I saw the changing weather all the time. And I really look back to that. So I, for one, have always been willing to lean in immediately with change, which can be quite difficult. Change is like the ocean. You can try and stand there. If you've ever stood, even just knee deep with a wave crashing down, try and stand there. Try and stand there and hold yourself upright when that wave comes. What's going to happen? You can either swim with it and embrace it and ride that. And maybe you'll crash too if you're on a surfboard or a boogie board or something, but you're riding at least in the same direction. So you make the decision, right?
Right. I love that you're saying that, because a lot of what this podcast is about, and in my upcoming book is releasing rigidity from our lives. Like, we get so rigid because we're trying to keep change from happening, and we're trying to just stay in our comfort zones, and we're letting these identities, our ego, the wounded version of our ego, we're letting that drive our action, or as I say, our inaction. Right? We're letting that hide our courage and hide our authenticity. And so we're not fully expressing ourselves. And we feel like we're either not accepted or we don't belong, or we feel like we're an imposter because we're actually being an imposter in our own skin. Right. Being fake to ourselves. We're misaligned, like all those things that we're talking about. And that rigidity, in my eyes and in my own experience, was one of the things that held me back from feeling like I could authentically express myself. And so when people are moving through times of transition, which we know is all the time, but sometimes transitions feel bigger, right? It is maybe it's a job loss, or it's just a toxic environment and they feel like they have to leave. Or it is relationships or marriages end, or, different transitions, having a baby, but these are big moves, big things that happen in life. When people are moving through transitions, how can they stay more rooted and centered in who they are? Like, what is something that you would say is just a really great practice or tool
Yeah,
that people could practice to stay?
absolutely. So, in the book Step into the Gap that I released, there's a values chart. So the people, if you want to grab that, if you can also email me too, and I'll send it to you. It's you just go through and you identify your core values. It's a wonderful practice because it's so simplistic, but allows you to start that process. So I like to use the capital S, self. So that is your essence, your core, what on a very animalistic level feels very comfortable for you, right? What is your safety? Where's your safe place? What are the feelings, the emotions, the embodiment that are going to let you feel that way in your own space with self? Okay, so first and foremost, that is sitting still with yourself, connecting with yourself, realizing that innately or connecting with a higher power, your faith, whatever that might be, that you're cherished, you're loved, you're whole, and you are safe, right? Because nobody can touch that. We are evolutionary creatures, right? The world around us, everything that is around us is energy and evolving, constantly changing. Good luck if you would like to hold on to that, because I'm going to tell you right now, it's like holding water in your hand. It's not going to happen. And I'm sorry. And the more that you use and practice using that muscle of leaning into it, the easier it's going to get for you. And that's not to say that sometimes we don't have tears streaming down our face when the change happens, because it is terrifying sometimes. But the world's been changing around us. You've been changing around yourself since you were born, and it's going to continue to happen. One of the biggest, scariest things for both men and women, which we don't talk about as much for men, is age, right? It is probably the biggest change that people don't get behind and get on board with, because there can be such a negative connotation. You said the rigidity. I'm going to tell everybody a little secret. The more rigid you are, the more that you try and push it away and hide from it and, really exile it, the faster you're going to age, right?
Yes.
And that's what's going to happen mentally and within your body. Ditch all
That
the
is so
creams,
true.
just stop resisting it and lean into it. And the radiance that's within you at whatever age you are biologically, not chronologically, but biologically, starts to radiate through because you've embraced it and started to embody it. When we are at odds with self, when we are separated from self, we rapidly put stress on our body, which causes inflammation and chronic disease. It's
It
just,
is so true. Oh my
yeah.
gosh. It reminds me of, the book, The Body Keeps the
Yes,
Score, right?
yes,
Like all this emotional baggage that we stuff down,
yes.
suppress and try to ignore. And it's like, at some point, it's just energy and it needs to move,
Yes.
right?
And how
So,
powerful
yes,
to really be connected with who you are. And
yes,
that sense right there sounds so just big and unyielding. And how do we do that? And how do I connect? It is not that difficult. Go sit with yourself. Just go sit on a bench. Go sit at the park on your lunch break. Go sit in the car for a little bit. No music, nothing attached to you, no noise. And just feel your body. Take stock of it. What are you so rigid? What are you fighting against so hard? And I'm going to ask you this. What's the worst that could happen if you just let it be?
yeah,
If there was an acceptance, first an awareness and then an acceptance
right.
and then a smile maybe, because you're like, I can
Yeah,
do this, right? I'm okay. The world didn't
right.
fall apart. Nothing came crashing
Totally.
down. I'm good. And when you do that, there's a power and a strength that comes through because now you're operating as a whole, right?
Yes, yes,
Acceptance that I do need this job and I do want to show up for it and I do like it and I do want to do this thing and I like the people in it and I like the values and I'm going to try showing up with maybe a little gratitude that I do have it, or
right,
I'm going to show up in this relationship because the grass isn't always greener and the
right.
work that I could do in this relationship could build something based on something that I already have that could be better than I could ever experience.
Yeah.
A
And
sense.
just shifting how you're showing up
Yes.
in all of those
Yes,
places.
but it needs to be
Yes.
aligned. It does need to be aligned. You can do that all day long, but if you're not understanding your alignment and how you show up, then it still could miss the mark and it could create more work for you. So I just tell
Yeah,
people, like, let's get to the bare bones of it. Let's get down to the root. We don't treat
that makes sense.
symptoms. We're not in the business of treating symptoms. Even medical health programs now are realizing we got to get down to the root cause. We can't put a Band-Aid, right?
No, because every Band-Aid is going to cause some other symptom, and then you got
It's
to treat that one.
the
And it's
wound's
just,
going to
yeah,
open again. It does. It
exactly.
finds a way.
Yeah,
There's a trigger. There's a traumatic experience. Somebody says
right,
something wrong to you. You get cut off in line. And it's just like,
right.
you've just been holding on so tight that I think it's all
Yes,
time for us collectively in the world to just take one big, long inhale and deep breath.
yeah,
And say, like, let's get back to the root cause of this stuff. Let's just start to
yeah.
lead with our values and in alignment and see where we can go.
It's so true. One of the things that I say a lot about, especially, jobs, the
Yeah.
roles we play in our careers when we're working for other companies and other people
Mm-hmm.
is take stock of how much does your job serve you,
Yes.
right? Because that can also help you maintain your alignment with your values in the job. If you're
Right.
constantly resisting your job or you're constantly feeling that rigidity in everything you do in
Right.
your schedule every day, then take stock of, gosh, does this job actually serve me? Does
Right.
this role serve me? How does it serve me? Well, maybe it is just financial for now. That's
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
Like, just
Absolutely.
have gratitude for that.
Yes.
Okay, this supports my lifestyle and my family's lifestyle
Right.
for now. And that's great.
Mm-hmm.
If it's more than financial, if it's also, you know what, it helps me feel like I have a sense of accomplishment in my life. I like feeling
Yeah.
recognized. I like leading others. I like relationship building, whatever it is.
Right.
Appreciate that for what it is.
Right.
It doesn't mean you can't do something else. It doesn't mean you can't have goals for, a new job or starting your own business or whatever it is, but appreciate where you are now.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll get even to those other things faster. You'll manifest those other things faster in your life.
You will.
That is that because the energy that you're giving
Yes.
is going to bring back some of that energy to you.
Absolutely. Because you start to break down the bad habits and the
Yeah.
negative thought pattern that continuously propel you and put you in the places you don't want to be, right?
100%.
It's those
Yeah.
conversations that you don't want to continue having. It's the argument with your spouse or partner that goes nowhere, where you end up going to sleep angry that you're not making headway, right? So if
Yeah.
you're in alignment and you're coming to the different approach, and I say this, quickly and just in a few sentences, but it's sessions that we do to understand how this looks and feels and how you approach fundamentally. I loved what you were saying about, the work too, and even in relationships. What fulfills you and brings you joy is incredibly important that you look into that. Again, we need to make sure that it's things that it's not object referral and the intention is in line with your values, right? But we as human beings have a certain level of continuous creativity
Yeah.
that needs to be output. And when there's no output for it, right, there's a sense of lackluster, discontentment, disconnection, because it's how our minds and our bodies work. We're expressive beings. That can look like anything from video gaming to painting to taking up a voice singing class to finally practicing ballet because you've always wanted to since you were a child, to joining the community outreach program at your office, because being of service is the greatest gift we can do for anyone, and it really gets us out of our heads to be of service. So there are so many different avenues of things that you can do. It's not just quitting the job or leaving the relationship. Let's be perfectly
Right.
clear. Or starting the business.
Right.
That's not going to do it, and it's going to create more angst. And we are multifaceted beings. We can have the job and have the outside, painting class that we do that just lights us on live. And then we go back to work and we talk about it and we embody it and give others the right to do it. You need to continue to be that multifaceted, because when we just sleepwalk through life on autopilot and we're not allowing that energy to sing from us, right, and to put it out into the world, we feel disconnected and we feel lost from ourselves.
Yes. And so depleted and exhausted.
Yes.
Right. And it's like that's where people blame burnout on the
Yes.
job. It's like many times it's not the job, it's how you're approaching your own self.
Yes.
And therefore your life.
Right.
Right. And so many things that you've talked about, I think, are very inspiring for the listeners who might feel that
Yeah.
depletion, who might feel like they've been on autopilot
Right.
and that they want to wake up to a different life. But,
Right.
it takes a little bit of work. So giving them some of these
Does.
pointers is so helpful. What would you say for you, Tessa, when you get depleted,
Yeah.
when you feel like, geez, my energy's a little low today and I'm
Right.
not feeling like myself? What are some of your rituals that get you back in line and
Absolutely.
aligned with your values?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, I want to say sometimes you have those days.
Yeah.
And you can't just get you.
Everyone's human.
You're human and you're going to have them. Such is life. And so a day in the life of me, if I am feeling overstimulated, which can very much happen for me, I take space for myself. I tell my kids, Mom's going to go take a break. It's funny because my daughter will look at me and she'll be like, are you done peopling? Because I can kind of, and I'm like, I'm done peopling. I'm like, we're not going to people anymore. I was like, I'm going to go walk
More
with the
energy can come in today. Yeah.
No, we have max capacity. And don't get me wrong, I love it. But I
Right.
also know that I have limits. And if it's
Yeah.
been a very big week of output, I know what I can look forward to, right? My bedtime routine, which I really try not to skip. It's my downtime. It's sitting there, no electronics, washing my face, self-care massage, doing my whole routine that I love because it's a love story to myself. My tea, right? It's making a meal. It's hard for me to go out. I like to think that I've gotten quite good at cooking. I think my kids would finally agree. They're like, man, did it take you a while? And I'm like, thank you for bearing with me. But it's funny because my friends will be like, let's go out or let's do this. And I do enjoy going out, but more times than not, I'm like, let me cook for you.
Yes.
I'm going to cook for you. Come over. Put your feet up. That's my space. That's my happy place. Cooking and feeding people and caring for them and having them in my space. But they all know that they need to leave by 9 o'clock because that's it. They're like, oh gosh, I got to go. Get out.
I turn into a pumpkin at 9 p.m.
Exactly. So it's having boundaries first and foremost, but it's knowing through the tools and the training that I have what resonates as my personal prescription of replenishing to me. And for me, it is alone time, seeking solitude, reading, reflecting, meditation, small movements. If something has just hit me from stage left, as it does, an email comes in, something that was disruptive or threw me a little bit, I know that I need to read it. And if I don't have to deal with it right away, I get up and I walk. And I walk outside, and sometimes I take the dog, sometimes I don't, depending on what I need. And I walk, and I'll just walk around the block. I'll walk around my house before I respond to anything to regulate myself and let it feel. And if it was disturbing news that I would take for the rest of the day, I want to do that before I interact with anybody, so it's not a projection. So guys, we're human. It's a practice. Some days I do this well, some days I don't, and it's complete burnout. And by the end of the day, it's like we're done. That's all I've got in the tank.
Right.
So.
Gotta go to sleep now.
Right. And reset for the next day. Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, thanks so much for sharing with us about your energetic balance and how you maintain your own center through the rituals that you have, but then the boundaries you set and what you say no to, what you cut out because you have no more space for it in that given moment or in that given day. Because I think that is what's so important is people are always trying to cram more and more in.
Right.
And it's not about cramming more in, it's about choosing better.
Right.
And that's what I feel like so much of my message is about and
Beautifully
what I want people to take away from the stories that you told, which were really, really lovely. So you have a book.
I do.
Step Into the Gap.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the book? And then I want you to tell my listeners where to find you.
Absolutely. So thank you so much. And beautifully put, it's making the right choices that align with you. And that goes for everything. So Step Into the Gap is, if you've enjoyed those listening, hearing about this story, it very much takes you on a deeper level through my journey from work to identifying myself and what that is and understanding what have I accepted as who I am and what I'm doing, and then how I'm taking agency over my life to step into the gap, the space in between thoughts. This is all built on my experiences, my thoughts, working with, studies of neuroplasticity and just thought patterns and just own human experience. But they can find it. Anybody who's listening, you can find that on Amazon. It's Tessa Arnold, Step Into the Gap. And feel free to email me at tessa@tessaarnold.com or find me on any of the socials. I will say I'm not on them a lot. I don't apologize for that. Sorry, life's full and I really love experiencing it. So just email me, tessa@balanceofyou.com or tessa@tessaarnold.com. And there you will find me and I would be happy to connect with you and set up a session or answer any questions.
I love that. Thank you so much for walking us
Yeah.
through your book. I know it sounds so phenomenal, and I look forward to reading it myself.
Yes, thank you.
And we will include all of Tessa's information on all the podcast platforms, so you can find all that information there as well. And thank you so much, Tessa, for being here. Such a pleasure to have you. And thanks everyone for listening. I will talk to you next week.
Thank you.